Good morning. So this is week 4 of our continuous learning on AI-powered development series, and I'm grateful you guys are here today. So the last 3 weeks, we've been talking about Copilot straight out of the box. We've asked it the questions, we were able to get answers, and we start typing it complete and all those cool stuff we were doing. So today, what changes is that it start becoming your personal assistant, and it start calling in tools as well. So today we are going to be talking about customization, how we're going to customize our Copilots. I may have mentioned some of it in passing on week 1, but today we would show it how it works live. I would also talk about how we can push your code to GitHub, how you can, what is a pull request, what is Copilot review, and also talk a bit about GitHub security, and again, our quiz and hands-on lab for the week. All right, so the first section, making Copilot yours. So this is where we shift our mindset. We are no longer just consumer of what Copilot ships. We are going to teach it about us, right? Then we go straight into the highest value feature. So the first thing I want to talk about, let's paint a picture. On the left, you can see every brand new Copilot is what they have. General programming, it can write a function. It has no idea what your project actually looks like, right? It guesses at your style. It picks a random code like Python or JavaScript. And tomorrow when you ask this exact question, it might be slightly different because it has no memory of how your team does things, the conventions, the standard, right? So that is where customization comes into place. And now customization comes into place with different toolkits. We have different toolkits. 6 features that I want to talk about. So we have custom instructions, and I'm going to show us what it looks like. Then I'm going to talk about prompt files. I'm going to talk about Copilot's memory. I'm going to talk about MCP servers, and we're going to spend a demo on MCP server, how we can connect Copilot to an external tool. Then we'll talk about agent skills. I think we've already touched agent skills last class, and also touched custom agents last class as well. So I won't be going deep dive into custom agents because I think we created some in the last class. But I'm going to talk about custom instructions, prompt files, talk about memory, and MCP servers more. All right. So first, custom instruction. So what is actually a custom instruction, right? In plain English, it is just a short note that you leave Copilot. It reads silently every single time you ask it something. You don't have to invoke the instruction. You don't have to remember to attach to it. It just happens, right? An example would be in real life would be a manager at a restaurant. Instead of training your waiter every single morning on how to set a table, the manager can always just write 1-page notes on and put it on the wall. So same outcome, 100 times less work, right? So instead of you asking your manager, how do we do this thing? How do we do this process? How do we do this? If you have a set of instruction file, right, in a restaurant, for example, that is on the wall or anywhere else, it can be even a company, right? They have a set of instruction on how they do things, right? You don't need to be asking your manager every time, oh, I've forgotten how we used to set the table. Oh, I've forgotten where the fork goes, where the knife goes, right? So with instructions, you just have to have it there on your board, and in real life example on the wall, whatever. And no matter how many times, instead of going to your manager, you can always have the instruction file as a reference point. So that is the same thing with Copilot. So before Copilot even start generating any code, it always, anytime you chat Copilot, it always check the instructions file first before it starts creating like any sort of code or any other thing, right? So that is what Copilot instruction is all about. Then there is not just one place to put instruction. We have 4 different options, and every one of them solves a slightly different problem. So the first one is the main one, which is the main instruction, is the big one. This file lives at the very top of your repo. Its rules applies to every single Copilot request anyone makes in that project. So the language version, as I mentioned, for example, if it's Python, if it's Java, the error formats, your testing framework. This is where, the instruction lives. Then the second one is where you want to be a little bit of surgical. You can create a file that ends in instruction.md, and at the top you reply something like maybe a pattern, right? So it can be just one set of rules for just your Python file, another set of rules for just your API folder, another set of instruction for just your front end. So you use this when you are doing a very, very, very big project, building a very, very big application. So you can have different instruction sets as well. Then the third one is the agent, which we created last week as well. So this is where you have like different kind of agents that you can have in place, like the review, documentation, whatever it is you want to have, right? These are basic convention, test agent, etc. And you can switch the instruction files on and off, or even add additional ones from your editor settings. So let me just show us what it looks like from a project that already has an instruction file, so we can see what it looks like. Yeah. So if we look at this project that was created by somebody in Microsoft, we have the main instruction file I spoke about. Oh, Chris. So we have the main instruction file. So we can see that this is like a high level architecture, and it also reads from this other instruction. So we have like another extra instruction. So this is just like an high level general overview instruction. And we also have like a mini instructions as well. So this is the instruction for only API, the API principles, the review guidance. So before like Copilot run anything on API, it reads this instruction first and knows, okay, for this particular company, this is how they do their own API stuff in their organization, right? Same thing for database. This is how their database schema is. This is their migration principle. If something does not exist, what do they do? How do they roll back, their rollback strategy, right? So these are the instructions that Copilot is going to use. So it's just you basically customizing your own Copilot to your own use case. Same thing as well. There's a front-end instruction as well. So again, it applies to only front-end, kind of like front-end / index HTML, whatever it is they are using. They can use JavaScript, or they can use HTML, whatever it is their front end is. So it's telling Copilot to focus on this quality, accessibility, performance, and maintainability, right? And also the principles that it has to follow. And also it also gives you the review checklist, like, okay, these are the checklists you should check for when you are creating like a front end HTML or JavaScript file. And also create a testing guidance or a performance flag as well. So these are the example of using instructions. So this is what instructions has done. And this will always run whenever you ask Copilot to do something when it comes to instructions, right? So that is Copilot instructions. And you may not know where to start from. Again, I'm a big fan of always telling Copilot to create an instruction file for us. So let us go to our own empty folder as always. I think is it this one? Yeah, this one. So increase it. So you can always ask Copilot, right, to create like an instructions.md file. Now you can be vague about it. Like if you know what your organization wants, right? You're gonna, let's say I'm typing out our house rules in plain English. Number one, for this example, every endpoint must validate inputs. Number two, if the email already exists, return a 409 with our standard JSON error shape. So this is like how you can also create the Copilot instruction file. But again, you need to know the instruction you are giving to Copilot, because again, as I mentioned earlier on, anytime Copilot runs, it's going to check out the instruction file first. So now let's see what it has created. It has created the instruction file here. So based on our requests, it gives you the house rules. So every endpoint must validate its inputs. Every endpoint must ship a PyTest covering with happy path at least one error. So this is an example of what Copilot instruction looks like. And anytime you run, ask Copilot a question here, or ask it to create something for using the agent mode, it is always going to check your instructions to create that particular file, or to create a particular folder, or to use a particular language when it is generating a web app for you. Okay, so moving on to the next customization is prompts. So instructions, as I mentioned earlier on, they are like silent, always on rules. So now we go from silent rules to something more like commands, like a prompt file. So these are the templates you can call on demand whenever you want a specific kind of help. And what do I mean by that? So what is a prompt file? So picture this, right? You finally written the perfect prompt for getting Copilot to do. Am I recording? Okay. All right, sorry about that. You finally written a perfect prompt for getting Copilot to do a code review the way you like it, right? And it took you like maybe 3 tries to word it just right. So you finally have the magic words. So what happens to that prompt tomorrow? Are you going to keep on chatting with Copilot until you get the right prompt again, right? So in most workflows, it disappears into the chat history and is gone forever. And you have to figure it out again next week. So a prompt file fixes that. So a prompt file is like a reusable template. You can save that perfect prompt that you crafted at that point into a file ending in .prompt.md from that moment on. Again, I'll show us how it looks like. So you can run it at any time just by typing the slash. Again, I will show us what it looks like. So what goes into a prompt file is like a clear task description, a required checklist. It's not an instruction this time around, this is a prompt, right? And can also reference the instructions as well. And an example of a great use case would be like a security scan, right? Instead of you always writing the same prompt for a security scan, instead of you writing the same prompt for like a documentation, right? Instead of you always writing the same prompt for like tests, right? So that is the difference between like, using this prompt file and like trying to like get the prompt all over and all over again. And why do people love it? People love it because of the consistency across the team. So remember, it's not only you that is writing this, it's not only that have access to like this code, right? It's you and in your organization. You're just a developer in your organization. So imagine you being the prompt champion of your organization. And like, every time Sarah always bring out the best prompts, right? So teams love it because like, okay, I can see that Sarah has already created a prompt that we can use for our test cases. Sarah has already created a prompt that we can use for our refactor cases, right? So instead of you guessing every time and trying to find the right prompt, because again, this AI is all about prompting. You can always use the prompt that has already been generated by somebody else to do that particular task. And also, this is also good for new hires as well. Someone that is just joining the organization, like they don't know where to start from. They can always, use the prompt that I already made available, right? So I'm going to do a test as well and show us what that looks like. Let me get this right so we can do a test. Control C. Let's do a prompt test. Again, I'm going to ask Copilot to be the one to do this for me. Again, to create the prompts. Not this one. I have so many open. Okay, this one. All right. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create 4 prompt files in GitHub/prompts. And we're going to use these 4 prompt files to build a very simple HTML application. And I'm going to show us how to connect to MCP server. So this is what our project is for today, right? So it's going to create 4 prompt files based on like this prompt that I've already given it to it. So let's see. So again, I've tested these prompts over and over and again. I'm like, okay, this is what works for me. So in your own case as well, you try out some prompts that like, okay, this is what works for me. I'm going to save this prompt file. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create this prompt for me. Again, you can do it manually by yourself by coming here and creating a folder called prompt and creating it. But I like using GitHub Copilot. It saves me a lot of time and stress. Do we have any questions so far, or it's flowing well, like, customizing your GitHub to whatever it is you want to use?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go on.
Yes, do we create the .github folder?
Yes, you can always ask Copilot to create just the way I mentioned in this prompt here, I was like, create this in the .github/prompt. Again, you can create it yourself by just right-clicking and creating a folder, right? New folder .github.
And you name it .github.
Yes, .github. Yes, that's to be .github. Or you can always ask Github Copilot chat. It's going to check if there is no .github, it's going to create it itself.
Okay.
So all this is I'm creating using Copilot right now. Sorry for cutting you short. All these prompts, you can do it manually yourself, but I just prefer using GitHub Copilot to just create everything. But again, I can create the GitHub, I can just like, create a new folder, call it .github, create a new folder again, call it prompt, and create this as well manually and call it this as well. But I just wanted to use GitHub Copilot chat to show you how it works. I live in GitHub Copilot chat, so that's what I'm showing. Did that answer your question?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so I created
So for me,
sorry, okay.
I know we are still gonna go to demo, practical demo, just to walk us through where do we start, from Microsoft to get to this page. I mean, that's what I'm sure your demo section will deal with.
How to get to watch page, please?
I mean, how we can navigate on our own screen.
Okay, were you around in week 1?
Week 1, yes, I think, yes.
Yeah, so what you have to do is you just go back to the YouTube video, right? Watch week 1. So week 1, we've gone through, week 1 and week 2, we went through how to create a folder. So by now you should have a folder created for like textile arts project. So I worked out to create like a folder from your file explorer, like from your computer, right? And how to create so we've gone through all those in the first week and the second week. So if you can watch the YouTube video all over again, yeah, so because this is week 4, I'm not going to show you how to create a new project in week 4. So in week 1 and week 2, we've covered all those ones. So if you go back to the YouTube video, you can see it. But again, I can easily just show it again. It's quite simple. Let's see. Let me open a new window. So this is what it looks like. Do you have Visual Studio Code installed?
Visual Studio Code?
Yeah.
No.
No, not yet. Okay, so you need to go back to week 1 because the first thing first for this project is for you to install Visual Studio Code, open a GitHub account, then open folder and start doing all these things. So you need to go back to week 1 and week 2 and rewatch the video and do all the hands-on labs. Then all these things will make sense to you.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So if I have a Microsoft package, it doesn't come with it. Do I need to install it?
It is free. We're in the free. It's free. Okay. You can, the website. Someone already posted on the in the chat. I think you can ask him to post again. What was his name? Someone already posted in the group chats. So are you in the WhatsApp group chat?
Yes, I am.
So Di Maria posted the link to how you can download Visual Studio Code, but you can just go to your website and type Visual Studio. Okay, you said you will post it again. Okay, thank you.
That's
all right. So you just need to.
Are you also going to post a sample of this your prompts on the chat?
No, that is your assignment. I'm not giving the yes. I won't give you the expo. Yeah. So I wouldn't so I'm just showing you how to do it when you reach that stage of doing the assignment, right? So that is what this is about. This is something which why I had to chat with Copilot and Cloud to give me a good prompt to show you. So that is the stage of being a developer, that research stage, that going to the internet, going to AI, chatting with AI, getting the use case, getting the prompts, trying to fix things. That is it. That is the beauty. But if I give you the prompts, it takes away the beauty from from doing these things. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I won't give you the prompt, no. But I would expect you to have the prompt.
Remember, AI is about fast decision.
Yeah, yeah. So again, it's just you text and I don't want to limit you to the kind of application you have to build, right? I'm going to show us again the application I built using this prompt. So I want you to be able to also be creative, think about like a simple application. You can also ask AI to give you like 3 examples of a simple application to test with an MCP server, for example. AI will give you like, different listening, like from there you start building. So that is the beauty of like, doing this stuff. But if I give you the prompts, it's like me giving you the answers, and it's going to take the fun out of the frustration. The frustration is part of the fun.
Yeah, that's understood. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Any other question? All right, so I'm just going to go back to the class. So right now I've asked it to create those. You can see it has created all the 4 prompt files that we're going to be using for our MCP server later on. So these are the prompt files. So I'm creating a single HTML file. It's just a very simple application. I'm going to show us what it looks like. Okay. But I just wanted to show us what prompt files is all about. So in a real life scenario, it's not going to be this, obviously. It's going to be more of something reusable, something like creating a test use cases, something like security, like, always check for security kind of stuff. And how do you test the prompt file? You just have to do slash, right? So slash the first one, which is 01. So we can see right here. Can we see my screen? Is it too tiny? Let me know. Let me increase it a little bit. All right. So again, let me start again. So if you want to call on the prompt slash 01, because my first prompt is 01 build app, right? So I can just call on 01 build app, right? And I'm just going to click on enter. Then it's going to start. It's going to look at my prompt and start working on it. So let's see. Hopefully it works. Why is it taking time? It should work faster than this. I'm using 4.8. Come on. This is part of the frustration I want everybody to also focus on, so that they can also get it during their doing the hands-on lab. All right. So while okay, it's working now. Yay. So you can see it has created the Canboard single HTML file, and it has put it in the browser. So we can see from here that has created the simple application I asked it to create. So there is no task yet. We can see it's in progress, done, to do 000. So it's just a simple application it just built right now, less than 2 minutes, right? That was the prompt. The prompt I asked it to do was basically, create a single HTML file called this, and these are the requirements, 3 columns, to do, in progress, and done. Each column has a button to add a blah, 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 blah. So this is what using like a prompt can do. This is an example of what you can do, right? Using a prompt file, and you can see it in the browser as well that it works. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next side of our slides before we come back again to talk about MCP servers and whatnot. But we can see that the application is working, because this application we're going to build on top of it again, using what we call MCP server. All right, so back to the slides. So now we've covered the 2 big customization tools. One is instruction and one is prompt file. Now let's talk about like a kind of like a useful feature, but they are kind of smaller. And I think I've spoken about it. I've spoken about skills and custom agent a lot, but I'm going to reiterate again. So Copilot memory first, it is very useful. So as you work with Copilot, it can quietly remember little facts about you and your project. So maybe one day you said, I prefer single quotes in my JavaScript, or in this particular repository, we actually like using snake case for variables. So next time you do your work, Copilot remembers that, and you stop having to repeat yourself all over again. So it's just then the background learning, right? But a very important thing to note is that never put your secrets in Copilot, your like a password, right? Or an API key, because it ends up in the memory and you don't want your secret sitting in there, especially if you're using a free subscription, because Copilot is your free. If you're using free, Copilot may use it to train their own model, and you don't want them to train on your own secret, right? So make sure that, like, you are doing like you're not putting your code, your secret, your password in when you're chatting with GitHub Copilot. Then the second one is skills. So it's like an expert know-how that comes prepackaged. So Microsoft and other publishers have created like different skills that says, okay, I know how to do X really well. Here are the steps. Here are the guidance, right? For example, there's a skill that knows how to set up Azure Web properly, right? And I've given us a list of examples of skills. If you check your week 2 PowerPoint slide that I shared, again, I'll reshare all the PowerPoint slides again. So I've given a list of examples of like skills that you can use in GitHub Copilot. And finally, the custom agent that we created last week as well. These are is like the most advanced of the three of them. Is a specialized mode around one job. So think about like test writing, for example. It's an agent that only writes tests in your own style with limited tool access. Or again, security reviewer is an agent whose only job is look at code through a security lens, right? So this is an example of how you can customize GitHub to your own, and each project might have different kind of custom agents, might have different kind of instructions. So it depends on the kind of project you are working on, right? So it's not a one size fit all. Then finally, moving on to MCP server, right? So this is going to help us wrap up our customization. So we extend Copilot beyond the editor mode with MCP. So what does MCP mean? So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. So let us think about it as a USB-C for your AI tool, right? Just like USB is a universal connector that lets you plug almost anything to your laptop, right? Some of us have that USB-C connector, the one that connects to our laptop, it connects to flash drive, it connects to mouse, it connects to keyboard, all those things, right? So this MCP server now, let it serve as like that connector that lets you plug like your Copilot to external tools. So the external tools can be Google, it can be GitHub, it can be Slack, it can be Microsoft Teams, it can be Microsoft Learn, it can even be your own custom MCP server, it can be bookings.com, it can be flights, a plain MCP server, it can be Claude. So it lets you connect your AI to those external tools, right? And today we are going to focus on one of the specific MCP server that is created by Microsoft called a Playwright MCP server. So what does the Playwright MCP server do? It lets AI to drive a real browser. So we can see Copilot open our browser, start clicking things on the browser, fixing things, taking screenshots like, okay, this is the issue. So for example, I'm creating an application and I'm like, can you just fix all this? Like, I just wanted Copilot to just be autonomous and like fix this thing, like, you know. So usually Copilot may not be like, I can't see the website. I can't see what you mean. Like, you know, it can only see from the back end. I can't see what you mean. I need to see it, right? So that's where Playwright comes into place. So with Playwright, Copilot can see, okay, when I click on next, what happens? The next screen comes up. So Copilot can take a screenshot and, you know, investigate what is going on, right? On its own, without me clicking next. It will be doing everything itself and we can see it work. So that's why I chose this as an example. But again, there are still other popular MCP servers like Google Drive. If you want to ask any questions about like, you know, your Google Drive, we also have like the Microsoft's kind of work IQ as well. You can ask questions about like your job, like, you know, or what did Sarah say in this meeting? Can we add it as a task for our application that we are building, right? So it can read and write local files as well. So there are different kind of like MCP servers that you can connect to while you are writing your code, depending on your organizational setting. However, always stay safe. Make sure you're using the official servers, right? Make sure that you're only touching what you point at and review before any destructive step, like deleting, for example. You want to make sure that before Copilot delete anything that you want to, like, you know, approve it before you delete those stuff. All right. So now let us see what this looks like, what an MCP server is, and how we can build an MCP server based on that Campbell application we've built. So going back to Copilot, this one. So MCP server uses Chrome. So we have to open my Chrome browser. But before that, let me run this second prompt. So what the second prompt is very important, right? That's I'm mentioning it right now. This may be the only prompt I'm even sharing with you guys. So in case you want to use Playwright MCP server. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create a file called for the MCP server. So the MCP server, you need to connect to it using JSON. So I'm just going to do / again, O2, and I'm going to ask it to set up the MCP server that I'm going to use for this project. So it's going to set it up. All right, I'm going to allow. Okay, so it has created a JSON file. If you come here, it's created the folder. For the person that was asking me about folder, this VS Code folder was not there before, but it knew that, okay, this should be in this folder called .vs code. So it's created the folder that I needed and put the mcp.json file there. So now we can see that this is the server, right? I can start it if I want to start, but I'm not going to start it right now. So each of these MCP server I'm talking about have like their own official documentation. So this is for Playwright. For any other one, like for Google, you check their official documentation and see how to like add their own kind of like code in your own mcp.json file. So you can always add like extra JSON file here for the server that you want to use, right? So that is how it works for the MCP server. So now that we have the MCP server in place, we want to ask Copilot to do the following step by step. So now let's take a look at the prompt together so we can see how Copilot is going to think through it. So now I'm going to ask Copilot to open this Campbell.html file, this one we've created here, right? And add a task called build login page and take a screenshot. And add 2 more tasks and take a screenshot. And after it does add those 3 tasks, it's going to now drag one of it from to do to in progress, right? Then after that, it should now drag it from in progress to done. So now let's see how it's going to do all these tasks without me touching, without me doing anything, right? And it's going to take a screenshot itself. So instead of me like going back to the browser, taking a screenshot, asking Copilot, have you done this? What is ready? What is waiting? What am I waiting for, right? Let's see how it's going to do all these things itself, and hopefully it works. So I'm going to do this, but before then, okay, let me open Chrome and let's see. Let's see. All right, so my hands are tied now. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it works. All right, so it's going to drive the browser through all the steps. Okay. Oh, wait, let me stop it right here. I want you to open from to do this. Guys, it worked this morning, okay? I don't know why it's not working now. Okay, let's try again. All right, let's see. Let's hope it works. If it doesn't, I would use the old one I used this morning and show us how it works. I thought my prompt game was very good. Is it doing it somewhere else? I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It's working here. Can we see it working?
Yeah, it's working in the in-browser.
Yeah, it's working in browsers. It's fitting to do in
in
Chrome.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's moved it to done, deployed to staging. All right. Okay, let's see if we're going to delete the deploy to staging task. It has deleted the task. Okay. All right, so we can see the steps it took. I'm so sorry, I didn't know it was working in the browser in the VS Code. So, but we can see let's look at the screenshot. It created a folder called screenshot, and it gave us like a screenshot of what it's doing, right? And let me see. And it gave us like all the steps it ran for this particular code. So this is how Playwright's MCP server works. So Playwright's MCP server is Microsoft owned, right? It helps you like with your troubleshooting steps if you want to troubleshoot like in your browser to see what is going on. And so Copilot will now start doing all those tests itself, right? As it did now. It was before, right? There was no to do, there was no in progress, and there was no done, there was no task. But I was able to create the 3 different tasks and was able to like, move these tasks from to do to in progress to done, right? So this is the example of what you can use an MCP server to do. So without Playwright MCP server, if you ask Copilot to do this, it's not going to be able to do it. So do we understand what MCP server is all about? Like how we can use MCP server like to call like an external tool to help Copilot to do what we want it to do. So that's what basically MCP server is all about. Another example of use case of MCP server would be using an MCP server for let's say Microsoft Learn, right? If you want to like give answers to, if you want to like generate answers based on only Microsoft official documentation, right? You can connect it to like MCP Learn, MCP server. So any question Copilot will give you, any answer Copilot will give you whenever you ask it a question in the ask mode, it's only going to check Microsoft Learn documentation. And if it does not have, if you tell it to only use Microsoft Learn documentation, it will tell you like it cannot generate that answer because it's not available in it's not a Microsoft product, something like that, right? So MCP server helps your Copilot to use it as a tool, like to get more things using your Copilot. So final use case would be to use this fourth one to generate, to run, and to fix a test using the Playwright MCP tools. So hopefully let this one run again and let's see how it's going to generate, to run, and fix tests. So let me go back to the website so that we'll see how it does the task. Because this is your hands-on lab as well. I want you to use a Playwright MCP server to do anything it is you want to do and see how it works. So let's see how it works. Do we have any questions about how this work? Do you have any questions about like MCP server, what it does? Or can somebody tell me like what they think they can use an MCP server to do? It's installing something now. Any questions? No questions. So we all understand what MCP server is all about. If I ask you a question about MCP server, you'll be able to answer, right? Very good. Okay. All right. So this is just going to work and it's going to create a new JavaScript file and it's going to do some tests and it's going to change the browser on its own, basically. On installing so many things. Patience is the game. Patience is the game. All right, it's running for tests. Let's see. All right, so doing this at the yeah, so we can see now the screen has changed to the test that it completed. So we can see the test that it did, the test that it runs, no field tests. All this is done from our Github Copilot, right, using the Playwright MCP server. So the Playwright MCP server is what helps Copilot now to make these changes for us to see, right? Okay, now the Chrome has finally opened. For us to see how it works, right? So again, as I mentioned, different MCP servers, Playwright is just one of them. I like using Playwright as a demo because it shows you how it works in real time. You can see how it works on the browser. So Copilot cannot do this on its own without this particular MCP server. So it's just like an additional thing you can use with your Copilot when you're doing your testing. You want to see what's going on. Like you cannot just for the life of you understand what's going on, or you need screenshots to show your boss, like, see, this is what is going on. And while you're doing other things, Copilot can be taking those screenshots for you of all the pages that is needed, right? So we can see everything needed. You can see the test that I was doing at the back end as well. So that's an example of how MCP server works. So going back to our slide. Now the next thing I want to talk about is sharing your code on GitHub. So right now we've been creating everything from like our machine. It's working on my machine. It's great. It's amazing. So how do you share your code on GitHub, right? So this is where the concept of commit, push, all this concept comes into life, right? So it's very simple to push your code on GitHub these days, back than before. So your code lives in your computer. We call that local. So GitHub is a copy of that code sitting on your Microsoft servers in the cloud. So we call that remote, and that's it. Local means laptop. Remote means GitHub. Just two things. And pushing means uploading your saved changes from your laptop to your GitHub. That's the whole concept, right? And it has like a 4-step flow. So step one is like you edit, you change your files in the VS Code, typing like normal. Step two is to commit. So commit means I'm just saving a snapshot of your work with a short message attached, right? So think of it like if you're playing a video game and you're saving your milestone with a label so you can come back to it. So the commit still lives in your laptop only. It has not gone anywhere yet. Then step 3 now is to upload all your commits to GitHub. So this is the moment your work leaves your laptop and moves to the cloud. Then step 4 on GitHub, your teammates can now see your work, right? So that's basically what pushing to GitHub means. And these days it's been made simple. You can do it either via code or via Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to show us the simplest method on how to push your code to GitHub. So where is it? Okay, so now we can see that this is on my computer. It has not gone to the cloud. It's not on my GitHub account. If I open my GitHub account, you're not going to see this week 3 anywhere in the list of my repositories, right? So if I just want to push it, I just come here, and see this folder currently does not have a Git repository. You want to first make sure that you're signed in to your account, right? So it's telling me like this folder does not have a Git repository, which means I've not even created anything on my GitHub at all, right? So you can either initialize a repository and then push to GitHub. So I'm going to initialize repository, and like, so what this does is basically like, okay, all my files that I have, let me expand it. All my files that I have is telling me like, okay, am I ready to make these changes and push it to the cloud, which is GitHub. So I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it first commit, right? And I'm just going to commit it. The following files, yes, save all and commit changes. So this is why it's very important for you not to put your secrets or put your keys, because again, when you publish it, everybody can see it if it's public. So I'm going to publish it, name it week 3, or do you know what? Let's name it something else. What should we name it? Let's call it Tech Stylers week 4. So now I have two options: publish to GitHub private or publish to GitHub public. So I'm going to choose public so everybody can have I'm going to change it later on so you're not going to steal my prompt. So now we can see it's uploading the files to GitHub, and that is the way you are able to, let me open on GitHub. that is the way you are able to, now we can see is made publicly available to everybody. So now anybody can go to this site here and they can see everything I've been doing. The screenshot, the test result, the Canva, the HTML file, everything, right? So this is what it's all about. So that's what it means by pushing to GitHub. So can somebody come off mute and tell me why people push their code to GitHub? Let's make this interactive. We have less than 10 minutes left. So why do you push your code to GitHub?
For version control.
Okay, that's good. That's a good example. Any other reason why people push their code to GitHub?
To collaborate and host too.
That's good. Yes. So those are the major reasons. You're right. Thank you for answering. So now that we've pushed to GitHub, right? Our code is now safely on GitHub. So this is the next question. If you are working on a team, how do you avoid stepping on each other's toes? How do you propose a change and have somebody double check it before it goes to the main code? For example, if I'm a junior developer, right, and I made a change, how do I do it, right? And how do my manager review that what Sarah is pushing makes sense? Okay, so that's what we call a pull request. So a pull request, or PR for short, is just a proposal. You are saying to your team, hey, I made these changes on a branch. Please review them. And if you like, merge them into our main code. That's basically what it means. So it's not magic. It's just a structured conversation about a change, right? And these are the 5 steps you should know about when you want to make a pull request. So one thing first is to create a branch. So before you start a new feature, you want to make a branch. So a branch is just like an isolated copy of the code where you can mess around without affecting other people. So we have what we call the main or master, depending on how you want to name it. So the next thing you want to do is like create a branch of that main code, right? So you can name the branch, like depending on your company's convention, Sarah's branch. So that is where you can mess around, play with things, test things, break things, right? Before you now try to merge it with the main code. You don't want to go and start making changes in the main code. Does that make sense? You don't want to go and start making changes in the main organization code. So you create a branch. So a branch is where you have an isolated copy of your code where you can mess around. So step 2 now is after you've made that changes to that particular branch that you're sure that, okay, this works perfectly well, you want to push that branch to GitHub. Okay, so now the next thing that you want to do is commit that changes and push that branch to GitHub, just like we did in our last demo. Then step 3 now is on GitHub, you are going to create what we call a new pull request. So GitHub is now going to compare your branch against the main branch, right? And you have to write a description of like, what do you change and why do you change it? So now your teammates or even Copilot, we can look at that code and like, okay, this is the changes that Sarah made, right? Or your can select this is the change that Sarah made, right? Then afterwards, your manager will be like, okay, I approve this. We've tested this. It works right well. I'm going to allow you to merge it to the main code, which means the application that is live now can now, like, take that new code, right? So this is what happens in the back end of all these applications you usually use in your organization or even that used to order. Like this is what happens in most organizations. You create a branch, you fix your own side, decide that they ask you to fix. You push your branch to GitHub. You compare your branch to the main, you describe the changes as well, then you review it, right? Your teammate is going to review it, your manager is going to review it, Copilot can also review it, and so it's like, oh, I'm not going to approve this because of this, right? Or if you did a very good job, we can approve it and make sure that, okay, all the checks are passed and now merge it into the main code, right? So I'm going to show us how it works, but let me just talk about this before I show us how it works. So now we have what we call Copilot code review. So before you even push your code, you can even ask Copilot to review your uncommitted changes, right? From the chat as well. You can also ask Copilot to also review your uncommitted changes. So Copilot can always catch issues before you start pushing it to GitHub. It can even suggest some extra things you need to make changes to as well, right? You can also request Copilot as a reviewer to review that particular pull request you made, that changes you want to make. You can ask Copilot, again, I will show us what it looks like to review your code, right? So that is an example of how to use Copilot code review in your code. And finally, why does this matter, right? When Copilot drafts a good PR description for you, you can ask Copilot to draft a good PR description for you, right? Instead of you typing like updated stuff and click submit, nobody knows what you updated, right? So Copilot helps to create like a very, very good description, right? And like, okay, give more context. And why does this matter? So that when your manager sees it, like, okay, this is what Sarah is trying to change, and that's why it matters. So without further ado, let me just show us what it looks like on the browser. On the browser. Okay. All right, so we have our code here. Okay, we've already pushed this to the public, right? So I want to make a change. I don't want to do it on Visual Studio Code because I want to show us what it looks like on the web now, right? We are already here. So let's look at what it looks like on the web. So I'm going to make a change to add README, for example. I'm going to add a README. I'm going to write, this is a README. I'm just going to write, let's see. I'm just writing these, the placeholder README file. Okay, so now remember what I told us about, let me look at the preview to see what it looks like. Okay, this is a README. I'm just writing, my English. This is just a placeholder README file. Let's leave it the way it is, right? So remember what I talked about commit changes, right? So now Copilot can also help us with a commit message. So we can see Copilot has already generated this itself, and I can always ask it to change. If I don't like this one it's created, I can just tell it to regenerate a new commit message so that the person can understand, what I'm trying to do. Now, this is the way I can also commit. Do I want to commit directly to the main branch, not advised, or do I want to create a new branch, right, for this commit and start a pull request? For the case because of this demo, I'm just going to commit to the main branch again, not recommended. So I'm going to click on commit changes, and it's going to, boom, the changes has been committed. What if I want to now make another change, like, right, I did this again and create a pull request from it. Let me give an example. This is another example. I'm going to click commit changes. Copilot is thinking, fix typo, create a new branch. Let's call it patch 1, and I propose the changes now. So this is my own personal branch, right? So now I'm doing a pull request. I'm not just committing the changes straight to the main one, right? So this is where I can request for Copilot to also review what I've done. So I can request for Copilot to review what I've done. It may take a while. I'm not going to wait for it. It may take a while, but I can also see the changes of the file that I've done. So this is how the file was like before, and I can see the new changes I've made. And this is the same thing my manager is going to see. He's going to see like the previous code and the new code, right? So I'm going to create a pull request, and that is it. So I think I have one open already. It's not open. I thought it was open. All right, so let's go back to this one, and let's see. So I created a pull request, review requested from Copilot. It takes a while sometimes. So Copilot is going to like give me like a good review. I'm like, oh, I don't think you should merge this yet. And so this is where you can now assign to your manager, right? If it's a company, you can assign to it. I'm the only one in this particular, it's not a company's repo, but this is where like you can assign to like, oh, my manager should review this, or a senior person should review this, right? And so you can assign to the person. So now Copilot is still reviewing. It's going to take a time. And when you are done, you match the pull request. And once you match the pull request, automatically from that particular branch, it's going to match to main from my branch that I created. So this is how it works in a real company scenario. You can also see how many files were changed here. So if I change multiple files at once, I can see all the files that are being changed here. But for this particular one, I only changed this README file. So basically, this is how it works, okay? Do we have any question? Any question? No question. Okay. So Copilot has come back with an answer. So this is what Copilot's AI left. So Copilots were like, okay, this is what Sarah is trying to do. The PR appears intended to fix a typo, but it still contains spelling issues in the modified lines, okay? So this is an example of what Copilot can do for you, you can fix it with Copilot, and from there, so the Copilot is going to automatically fix that issue for you, and then you can now merge to the main code after, obviously, your manager reviews it, right? So this is a suggestion. So you can see that here, Copilot has already suggested like the correct suggestion. So you can see my typo error. Let me increase this so that we can see my typo error. I am just writing this as a placeholder README file. Copilot helped me to fix it. So it's left for me now to, commit this particular suggestion and merge those changes to like the organizational structure. So this is how it works in a real organization and how Copilot can help, with our how Copilot can help with our project. I hope this makes sense. This is how it works in real life situation, because we've been doing everything on our own, but I wanted us to show how you can push your code from your Visual Studio Code to GitHub Copilot. So in your final project, what you're going to share with me would be like your GitHub, not screenshots. It's going to be like your GitHub account with that particular repository. So I can review like, your code or other things like that. That is why I'm showing us this particular scenario. All right. Then finally, I want to talk about security. Before we wrap up, let's talk about security, because security is very important when we are like, doing all this like writing code and all. Some of it is free. Some of them are being paid. You have to pay for it if you're in an organization. So we have what we call GitHub Advanced Security. It's a paid add-on, so I can't be showing you because it's paid, but I just want us to be aware of this concept. So GitHub Advanced Security, even before you push, that's what we call push secret. So even before you push your code, it checks for any kind of password, any kind of token, any kind of keys, and blocks it and tells you to go and fix it first before it even moves that particular before it moves it from your computer to the cloud, which I think is a very cool feature, right? And that thing GitHub Advanced Security does is also checks for vulnerabilities. Again, most times when we are writing code, sometimes we are using open source, right? We're using some open source tool to write our code, right? So it checks for vulnerabilities, it checks for like, mistakes that you may have made, right? And again, as I showed us earlier on, it also has like an auto fix option. It can suggest a fix. It can even be a typo error. It can be a scanning alert issue, right? So this is what GitHub Security does. It's a paid feature, but some of it are free. Dependabot is free. You just have to enable it on your particular repository. And how do you enable it on your repository? If you go back to GitHub Copilot and you go to security and quality, I think, yeah. So you can enable vulnerability reporting here. You can set up code scanning here. You can enable dependable alerts. So you get notified when one of your dependencies has a vulnerability. It also tests for potential security vulnerabilities. I don't have it enabled, but these are the kind of things you should also know as someone that is trying to learn how to use GitHub Copilot to write code. So writing code is cool, but also knowing the security is also very cool as well, right? It's better for you to fix something than pay for it later on. I think that comes to the end of our class for today. So for this quick quiz, I want us to write the answers, or come off mute if you want to. So question 1, where do repo-wide custom instructions live? Can we remember? Somebody asked the question, do we have to create this particular folder? So what is that folder name? I'm going to be looking at the comment section. Let's see. Nobody remembers. All right, so the answer is .github /copilot-instruction.md. Let me just show us once again where it lives. So this is where it lives for instructions, right? This is where it lives, .github folder. Okay. The second question is, how do you run a saved prompt file in the charts? I think this is very straightforward. So how do you run a saved prompt file in the charts? You just do / the name of the prompt file. That's how you run a saved prompt file in chat. Number 3, what is a custom agent? What is a custom agent? So a custom agent is a purpose-built mode of Copilot focused on one workflow with its own tool. For example, a test writer, a security reviewer, etc. Number 4, what can the Playwright MCP server do? Come on, guys, we used the Playwright MCP server. We've forgotten already. What can the Playwright MCP server do? We saw it work. So what can you remember from what a Playwright MCP server can do? Anyone want to come off mute or put it in the chat? Okay. What does pushing to GitHub mean? I'm going to call out names now. What does pushing to GitHub mean? I'm going to call on James. What does it mean to push to GitHub?
It means the uploading file that has works that are saved and change them from computer to GitHub.
Yes, very well. Thank you. All right. So final question, what is a pull request in one line? Esther, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think a pull request is? Esther is shy. Okay. All right. So pushing to GitHub means
it's a proposal.
Yes, that's correct, James. Thanks. Yes, Esther, you're right. A request to merge code changes from one branch into another. So you guys are in the class. So why are you not answering me? You could have just texted it. Why are you making me put you on the spot? All right. So let me just give you like the final key takeaways and things I should remember, right? So instructions are the highest ROI. Your prompt files, they are reusable commands. Memory and custom agents can help you save repeat work. MCP lets Copilot use external tools. For example, the Playwright we used, right? Pushing means is how your code reaches GitHub. Pull request means how your teams merge a proposal, as James mentioned earlier on, right? So Copilot can also help you speed your review and PR writing. And there are some free security features that are absolutely worth turning on if you can, right? And yes, I put in some official documentation again as well that you can have a look at later on. And finally, to the hands-on labs, this is what I expect you to build. I want you to write your own Copilot instructions. I want you to write your review, to create a prompt, namely review prompt or test prompt. You can also create anyone you like. And as well, I want you to tell Copilot a preference, an error format, and watch memory reuse it. Lab 4 as well, I want you to build a small app with Copilot, then test it with the Playwright MCP server, as I've shown us earlier on. Then I want you to push your code to GitHub and share with me in the, I have the, what's it called? In our WhatsApp chat, I put a form where you can fill and put your code, the link to your GitHub repository. So try to do these things this week and just submit your assignments. So this brings us to the end of this class. I think I ran over 1 hour in this class. So we'll see how next week goes from there before we finally build our full stack application for our final projects. Any questions? Let me turn off recording so we can feel free to ask questions if you want to ask questions that you don't want to be recorded.